2024 was the year of woke gaming. The push for wokeness in games was ridiculous. We had so many monumental examples of wokeness and selling literally less than 1,000 copies and completely combusting. Let's hope 2025 is a little bit better and some people start finally acting normal.
2024 has been a pretty crazy year, right? Well, I mean, at least for video games. It's also been pretty great. We've had some excellent video games. I'm sure that some people would disagree with me,
Yeah.
but alas. But I personally really liked it. I thought it was a year full of a lot of great games. A lot of games that are changing the way that games are made. Although maybe changing is a bit strange. I would say maybe they are trying to imitate how things used to be done, but hey, that's still change. But let's be honest, the one thing that's marked this year above everything else has been the collapse of companies that once stood at the top. It's been the
Bro, oh my god, he's showing all the big ones. Star Wars Outlaws. 1 million copies sold. Barely. Complete disaster. Concord. 5 copies sold. Complete disaster. And don't let the vote fool you, because they're unironically going to say, oh yeah, these are great sales numbers. WoW gaming is the future. It's as much as the future as your 41 percentile possibilities. It is what it is. I didn't make the rules.
slow downfall of live services. It has been seeing the rush that started with the pandemic of new studios and new projects, and especially things from even before that were chasing trends, come out and fail miserably. 2024 is the year where we saw the biggest failure when it comes to a large-scale, big-budget game in the Slip and Slide squad. And then Concord said, hold my beer. It's the year that Ubisoft is now teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. It's the year that...
By the way, we called this for Ubisoft a year before anyone else. I mean, it's just basic business sense, okay? And I don't agree with this concept that trend chasing is necessarily bad. For example, Fortnite. You may not like Fortnite, but a lot of people do like Fortnite. And all in all, you know, you may not want to admit it, and that's fine by me. But Fortnite is not the worst game out there. If it wasn't good, people would not be playing it, okay? It doesn't matter how many Zoomers play it or whatever, it's fine. It's decent, just admit it. Or if you don't, that's honestly also fine. But trend chasing is what made Fortnite. All of the biggest games that currently exist are literally trend chasing. World of Warcraft, literally a copy of EverQuest but better. Fortnite, a literal copy of PUBG Battlegrounds Unknown but better. Everything that's currently is good and popular is just a copy of something that succeeded previously. And I have no problem with that, and I honestly think most people don't have a problem with that.
Bethesda released Shattered Space. I'm just gonna leave that one there.
Yeah.
And those are just some of the bigger headlines, but let's not forget things like Tango Gameworks closing and
Hell
Xbox's
yeah.
complete rebrand of everything is an Xbox now, I guess. And if you've been following the
Makes sense. Makes sense. And again, about Tango Workshop closing because Hi-Fi Rush sold more copies than expected. It was a financial... It didn't do what it was supposed to do. Hi-Fi Rush's objective for existence was putting itself in the Japanese market. And it failed miserably at that, aka it didn't do that at all. Did it sell more copies than expected? Yes. Did it make more money than expected? Yes. But did it do what it was supposed to do? No. And thus there's no point of having it. That's why it got shut down. I know people are confused about this, but yeah. And by the way, all of this tracks perfectly. And also this tracks with a video I made 3 years ago talking about that Xbox has no future and no chance of winning the console war against PlayStation. Oh, because currently, at that point when I made that, it was more or less kind of even on paper. But I said, hey, listen, while you have a slight edge in, for example, maybe America or Europe or whatever they had an edge at that time, you have no edge when it comes to Japan. Japan is a huge market, and most people there are literally don't even know what an Xbox is because all of them are playing PlayStation. It's like a 30-to-1 ratio there. You can't win. And this, considering the market is not even grabbed, is going to mean when people start gaming, and that's going to happen at some point, 100%, as the world becomes more digitalized, when all the people start playing Nintendo's crap instead of your crap, you're gonna be you're gonna be just hanged out to dry, because that will mean that it's like 60-40 in favor of PlayStation, or even more probably. And no one wants to play the console that no one else is playing, so you're dead. And what do you know? As always, boys, we were right. We were right with our financial assessments, because we're good at this.
Channel, you've basically followed me talking about everything, including all of the positives as well. Games like Helldivers 2 have shown that there are ways to do a live service that isn't predatory and trying to make people feel bad. Palworld took the world by storm and made everybody wish that Game Freak would do something new. Stellar Blade showed us what happens when a Korean gacha game company decides to make a AAA game. And we saw a similar thing with Black Myth Wukong from China, which, while China has been making a ton of very successful and very good indie games for a while now, we had never seen something on that scale. I mean, maybe this is a little bit of a personal bias, but it's my video. Metaphor Fantasio is one of the best games I've played in a very long time, as are...
Obviously, because it's Persona but different. And again, no one wants innovation, they just want good stuff. And Persona was amazing! And Metaphor Fantasio is literally Persona, but slightly different.
Games like UFO 50. We've seen games that harken back to the way that games kind of used to be. Things like Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, still a very long title to say, with its kind of triple threat structure that I remember from games like Halo, with its co-op campaign, its multiplayer missions, and also its PvP, and that was very successful. And here towards the end of the year, we've seen that it doesn't matter what Concord did, or what Slip and Slide Squad did, or how Ubisoft canceled X-Defiant. That's still a weird story. Live service games have plenty of punch left in them, because Path of Exile 2 and Marvel Rivals have been juggernauts so far. It's been a year of absolute contrast, of quadruple A Skull and Bones, and one dude made Balatro. I'll let you guess which one is a better game and which one sold more.
Clearly, it has to be the pirate game where 50% of your crew is women, because, well, and they do the canon stuff because reasons. Obviously, it has to be the 50% women pirate crews.
And I've had the pleasure this year of sitting very comfortably in this chair and covering all of this news. And so I want to reflect on the two...
I don't know about that, Chief. This looks like a knockoff brand. Well, to be fair, so is mine. But I literally kill a chair probably once a year, and I already bought the replacement chair. Hey, it's not my fault I'm an animal. Listen, it's not my fault, technically.
Things I think are the most important lessons from the industry this year, and my predictions for the future for 2025 and beyond. And I'm going to do that with the help of a sponsor, which is meant to help you reflect on maybe your goals for next year.
Or
the
not.
longest running sponsor on the channel that I'm very grateful to, Boot. The most for video games, for the industry, and for the path forward are 1. Sustainability, and 2. The Ship of Theseus. When it comes to sustainability...
Hey, everyone's doing the Ship of Theseus thing! I feel so good about making that. Because, as far as I know, I'm the first one to do it. I called the video game industry a Ship of Theseus. It is what it is.
I think that what's become clear this year is that the bubble of AAA has burst. When these companies promised to share...
I also made a video like that. Titled, at least. Here we don't make things, we react.
Holders crazy profits like the ones that they saw during the pandemic, the shareholders bought in expecting unrealistic returns. And now, here these companies are, attempting to monopolize everything that they can and creating worse products in order to meet margins without realizing that worse products will sell less. When what matters the most is that bottom line, corners get cut, new systems are introduced to monetize, and content is patched in later as the minimum viable product becomes the only viable product. The insanely bloated corporate system has taken all of video games and slowly homogenized.
By the way, he's completely right about that. The cycle of finance that he just described is on point.
Them into whatever can make the most profit. And it turns out that within that machine, with the ways that they've sold it, with the promises that they've made, they just can't do that to that extreme. Meaning that this year, one of the things I've said the most is that good enough isn't good enough anymore. And I don't mean that in just the quality and competition of games. I mean that in sustainability as well. A game covering its costs is not good enough anymore. A game making a healthy profit enough to fund a sequel isn't enough. It's not worth investing that anymore because they are chasing these impossible highs. And what they've discovered is that it doesn't matter what you put behind those projects at the scale that they want to produce them, with how much the budgets have expanded with those unrealistic expectations, there's just no way to cover it.
Yeah, I just want to laugh so hard when I remember that in Star Wars Outlaws, Jabba is gonna come and rescue you from the Empire because Jabba is the good guy. I can't, it's just so funny. Jabba the Hutt coming to rescue a fucking smuggler from the Empire because reasons. It's just peak. This is peak.
It doesn't matter what recognizable IP you put behind it, it turns out that it's just not enough. And that leads me to the ship of Theseus. It's also the year where we really have to come to terms with the idea that a lot of the things that we love are no longer the things we love. The people that made names that we grow fond of are no longer there to keep evolving them. The people that used to make companies like Sony or Xbox, the studios like BioWare or Bungie, they're not there anymore. And while it does—
Well, to be fair, the people who made Destiny, aka Bungie, they're still there. They were just morons all the time. They just got super lucky and that's it.
Doesn't need to be this way. The franchises that they try and push out to us are just puppets. These companies that we used to attach so much value to have been bought out and switched hands and privatized and then traded to Embracer Group at some point, probably. And in that entire process, a lot of the talent and the people who made the games we love special have moved on, probably to smaller independent studios, trying to make games in a new way, trying to make games without—
Oh yeah, Exodus. This is a great game, made by Wizards of the Coast. Listen, Wizards of the Coast is probably my #1 most incompetent company in history. I mean, what Terranisk? Was it called Terranisk? That was a blatant scam by that girl who pretended to be British. Taraskew? Terranas? Something. You know, the blood test one, that one. Okay, that literal scam is handled better than fucking Wizards of the Coast. And in fact, anything that they do. Okay? Sam Bankman-Fried handled his company better than Wizards of the Coast. And this game is now gonna be done by Wizards of the Coast. You know what happened to that last game? Well, it was some kind of Diablo-like MMO Lost Ark thing where they made it so bad that after testing and spending probably what I would assume is near 50 million in advertising to make everyone on Twitch play it, no one wanted to play it because that game was so bad, because even auto attacks were not felt sad and bad when you used them. Okay, it is what it is.
the oversight and the bureaucracy and the 40 meetings per day. And as the entire landscape shifts, we get to experience new studios and new ideas, new projects of people trying to do things differently, and a new sort of indie scene.
Hey, look at that! The devs killed their own game here, 10 out of 10.
Starts to appear. The people who are actually taking advantage of the technology of today to try and make games that could rival AAA, but instead of needing 700 people, 5 years, and however many millions, only needs 100 people and 1/10 of the budget. You know, games striving for sustainability. And instead, hopefully, they can make their projects come true. And this is where I lead into my predictions for the future, which I hope are soundly based. I've spent way too much time this year looking at news reports and insider reports and corroborating information across different sources and looking at numbers. It sounds like I'm complaining, but it was actually riveting. This is the year that everything starts to change, because this is the year that a new cycle begins. We're seeing a change of the old guard, and even though companies like Xbox and PlayStation and Electronic Arts are doing just fine, Electronic Arts is mostly the sports game.
EA is, well, technically, yeah, they're doing fine, but dude, what was it, FIFA that said, that told them, yeah, you're not gonna do FIFA anymore? You know, the moment the EA loses their FIFA Madden licenses, it's fucking over for them.
Because Apex Legends not doing pretty well. But we're seeing others like Warner Brothers and Ubisoft start to take a negative trend that probably won't be too far away for others as that sustainability creeps up on them. This means that as that ship of Theseus takes effect, as old talent starts new studios and as new talent joins those studios or start their own, it's going to be the same thing that happened when video games started so many.
Wait, no, the ship of Theseus. I'm just gonna explain what it is, not what's wrong here, okay? The ship of Theseus is the philosophical question of what happens when you have, for example, a ship. And it's a ship, right? But over time, you know, in a year, you need to switch out the mast. In 2 years, you need to switch out the steering wheel or the whatever it's called. And in 10 years, effectively, you have switched out every single detail of the ship. And none of it is the original that you have bought. So the question is that the same ship or is that a completely new ship? That is the ship of Theseus. A moral dilemma.
Years ago. Small companies doing games that they want to make. Those games then have success and they use the money from that not to give it to...
What is this? Looks gay.
...shareholders and, you know, make other people rich, but to invest in the company again. And then make bigger games, and then suddenly they open a publishing branch, and then they buy some studios, and then, you know, they're one of the largest publishers out there. The ones who can survive will survive, and the ones who can't won't. But a new crop of AAA will rise, and they will either make the same mistakes and not know how to manage that growth, sell out and believe the hype that they're going to be the next big thing, or they'll try to make it better. Because AAA isn't going anywhere, and it really shouldn't. AAA should exist, because...
Well, it's gonna exist because AAA is an arbitrary thing that we call just a big company.
If they don't, who's really gonna push the envelope? It stands to reason that the only people capable of attempting absurd things when it comes to budget and scale and ideas are the ones with the most money and the most talent and the ability to find talent. And in an ideal world, they would be incredibly popular and they would make great games that everybody buys because they're the only ones who can make them, which I think that we've gotten very far away from. We all love a great AAA game, a super polished experience where you can tell that every little edge has been sanded off to make this game the way it is. Just as much as I think we tend to enjoy our good bit of jank and craziness.
Oh, hell yeah, that's a set viewer right there, by the way, boys.
And just pure experimentation. But AAA isn't going anywhere. It's the way that...
And there's, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but
going anywhere.
mm. Oh, that's some good stuff right there, boys.
It's the way that AAA works today and the companies that represent it. Those are the ones that have to change or go away. And I think this is such an interesting time because, to me at least, it feels like the Wild West. Who's going to be the next big thing? Who are going?
Valerion. Well, Valerion has cemented itself to be a future AAA company. There was one more thing that I was talking about, but you know, who cares? The shift is gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and that was Mug Thief. It is what it is. Stealing is a choice. Have a nice day. Bye.